XY Labs, huge new announcement.
We have more than 23,000 shareholders. And the reason we started the Regular Plus offering is because we wanted to give everyone the ability to be part of our community, but also of our success, and then the market decides if it has value or it doesn't. I believe there's going to be so much liquidity in this market, and it's going to change everything.
Hey, Security Token Market, welcome back to the Insider Interviews series. I'm joined today with Markus Levin. Markus, thank you so much for joining us. XY Labs, huge new announcement, listing with T0. You are on the operations team. You're certainly a big wig over there, and I can't wait to dive into everything XY Labs. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So I think first off, we got to set the scene. We got to let everybody know what's going on. Can you give us a brief overview of what is XY Labs and what's so exciting about the new recent announcement?
Yeah, XY Labs was a lot of things, and now it's basically a data company connecting real-world data with digital realities like blockchain or the metaverse, but also we are a traditional data company using blockchain technologies. We sell that data to any traditional company as well.
Fascinating. And so XY Labs successfully conducted a Reg A Plus offering, right? Can you walk us through what that process looked like and how that went?
Yeah, of course. We did the majority of that we ran in like 2018 and 2019, and we have more than 23,000 shareholders. And the reason we started the Regular Plus offering is because we wanted to give everyone the ability to be part of our community, but also of our success and our journey. And we sold at the same time we sold XYO, which is the utility token of our blockchain network. We sold it in the US with a Reg D, right? And then overseas with Regulation S. And then, and if you weren't in the Reg D, like you weren't an accredited investor in the United States, we gave you the opportunity to instead become an investor in our company through the Reg A route. And so, you had lots of choices basically. And
that's fascinating.
Yeah, and we were one of the first companies qualified by the SEC, which had a token as well. And we took a super compliant route, and we have American entities and all the things you don't typically see in the blockchain space, and we decided to go a very transparent, very transparent kind of route.
That's tremendous. I think that you're following in exactly a lot of the things that we've preached to a lot of our clients, and we've certainly covered on a lot of our media with regards to making sure you're doing this the right way. Every step of the way. It seems like you do have a utility token, which I'm interested in hearing how that works in your ecosystem. And not only did you issue that compliantly using a Reg D fundraising exemption, listing that through that process, but then you also then offered a security token and worked through that dual token model, which I've talked quite a bit about how that makes a ton of sense. That you can have that opportunity to invest in the underlying infrastructure in that protocol, as well as leveraging the network token and the utility token for that process. Could you give us a little bit of an explanation around those two different types of assets and how they work within your ecosystem?
Yeah, so the XY Labs shares, they are regular stock in our company, and they give you the same, rights and obligations that a regular shareholder has in an American company. And the utility token, the XYO token, you can use. It's used to power the network. The XYO network. In the beginning, it was a network of IoT devices, which did something called bound witness or cryptographic handshake, where they verify each other's proximity to each other. This way, you can create a a relational map of devices, and you know where something started, let's say the factory, and where something ended up, let's say, on your doorstep. And for that network to work, we have several components. We have like sentinels, which are devices which collect that data. There's bridges which relays the data. The archivist stores the data. The diviners crunch the data to give you the best answer to a given question. And all these devices earn XYO as they provide data which is useful to someone else. And when we tried to build this IoT network, it was incredibly difficult because companies like Comcast and others, they can be slow, right? Especially compared with a small tech company like ours. And so we tried to build this proof of concept, and it took like 2 years, and it was just crazy. And so we thought, mobile phones are IoT as well. Why don't we pivot a little bit and create our IT network through mobile phones? And so we developed apps, one particularly which is called Coin. Coin is a sentinel and a bridge in the XYO network. And so you use it to collect data. And so people who use that app, they can earn XYO. And in the beginning, it was all this passive data collection. And then we realized we're more than just a location company. We are a true data validation and verification type company. And so we build another layer on top of the XYO layer. And now our nodes or users, they can go and collect offline data, let's say from retail stores, like opening hours. They can take pictures of that and so on, or they sentiment data, or they have location-based surveys. And there's a lot of other ways to collect data. And then we validate and verify it through the XYO network. And then that data gets used to, let's say, resolve a smart contract, or it gets sold to companies. And all this ecosystem, to interact with it, you can either pay XYO, right, and then ask a question and get the answer, or you pay USD or whatever other currency, and we buy XYO in the market, for example, and then XYO gets distributed through the network. And so it's a real utility token. And the economy of XYO has increased tremendously. Today we are probably the largest trustless oracle out there, and Oracle is in blockchain speak something which connects one data point basically with something else. And we have more than 5 million nodes out there, and are scaling rapidly. Yeah,
that's really cool. I think the question that I have with regards to your network is that you're providing, I think, very unique data with regards to real life data that we need to bring on chain, and we need to create a way for other people to interact with it. How do you see your on-chain Oracle interacting with others? So, for example, I think the biggest one that I don't see as a direct competitor, and I'm not trying to bring up competitors for sure, but I just think it maybe helps people connect some of the dots, is that if you were to work with something, do you see that other oracles, like let's say a Chainlink or something like that, how do they interact with each other? Is it something where they can collaborate? Because you're certainly providing very different data than what they're collecting with on-chain, bridges and things like that. Yeah. Do they plug into each other? Do you see that as eventual competitors in the system? Certainly in a decentralized system, there's no one's really competing. You're kind of aggregating more than anything. So how do all these different on-chain oracles, even if you look at Subgraph or other things like that provide some of these similar services, but certainly on a very different scale and with a different scope, how do they all interact with each other in your view?
Yeah, I call it co-opetition, right? So in a way, there's so much to do for us to expand the market of oracles, right? That we need to cooperate first. Doesn't matter how much we have competing overlap, right? And then, we're competing a little bit here and there, but mostly what Chainlink and us and all the other oracles do is educating companies and individuals what oracles to increase adoption. And we are actually more cooperating than competing there. And with Chainlink, they are really an incredible company. They're more a technology company. They're not a data company like us. So Chainlink is really good at connecting data points or data sets with a smart contract, for example, and but they're not so good at collecting the data. So they have relationships with data collectors, like let's say AP News, right? They have a relationship with them, and they get, I think, weather data and some other data from them, and that's centralized data, which is not trustless. And in our case, we create the trustless, or our community creates a trustless data where the data is validated and verified through the XYO network, but also the data comes from a lot of redundant sources. So in the example I made in the beginning, where the data gets collected, for example, about a restaurant's opening hours, right? It might be 3 people or 5 people going there and collecting that data, right? And then other data around it gets collected, which validates and verifies that everything is true and correct. And then we either ourselves connect that data on chain somewhere, or we partner with Chainlink, right, to bring it to someone's smart contract.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So it does kind of end up being that potentially you actually may be above stream from something like Chainlink, which would then, then take on the data that you've already brought on chain and then feed it through their system or whatever, or however that may work. That certainly seems like from a data perspective, the closer you are to that source, that's certainly where more of the value translates. And certainly here at STM, we can relate to that as well, being a hub for a lot of financial and underlying asset level data. So I think that's fascinating. How, from your perspective, will that landscape change over the next 3, 5 to maybe even more 10 years down the line? Because certainly there's such a large market for data. And do you think that how does maybe potentially the blockchain actually add value in data aggregation and in collecting all this stuff? How do you see that developing over the next period?
Blockchain has such an advantage over other data systems or storage systems or resolving intelligence systems, because you have audit trails, for example, and so you can trust the data more. In our case, it's this is one of our bread and butter things is the auditability of the data, and then that you have a high degree of certainty that data is true and correct as well, and that you can say where the data originated and where it ended up, and that becomes more and more important, I think, as more and more value gets attached to data. If you think about location by itself, right? If you 10 years ago, nobody really cared about location except if you had a navigation system, right? And then smartphones came and visit apps, right? And today, any second app on your phone has location data, like Uber, Yelp, Amazon, you name it, right?
Right.
And then if you look at the economy, it becomes so much more location reliant as well. If you think about smart cities, self-driving cars, automated supply chains, and you name it. And so there's more and more value attached to this location data, and more nefarious actors are incentivized to cheat and steal whatever you're doing. And so we need to protect that. And that's where we come in.
Fascinating. And so you went through this process and presumably built most of this product through, you said 2012 was when the company was founded. So this product has been built over a long period of time. How has the business changed now? We're still on that first utility token offering back in 2018, 2019 era. How has that changed the business and the business model?
In 2012, when we started, we were a location IoT company. We created Bluetooth beacons and GPS trackers, these kinds of things. And then 2017, we realized location gets easily spoofed or hacked in the manner I described. And so try to find a technology which lets us fix that problem. And that's where the XYO network came in. And then the business pivoted and just went bananas. Today, we have lots of partners. We have great revenues and profits. And then the first half of 2022, right, we grew 51% compared with the first half of 2021. We just had our semi-annual report just came out 2 weeks ago. And so the business it's not as hardware heavy anymore by itself. We still do some hardware, and it becomes more software focused and to increase scalability. Also today we're open source because we want everyone to be able to connect to our ecosystem and be a part of what we do.
Oh, I lost you there just a little bit. If you want to finish that sentence one more time. We just glitched you there at the end.
The last sentence or two?
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
No worries. We can move on. I've got plenty more questions about how all this works, but I apologize for that. But yeah, so that makes a ton of sense to me. And I think that seeing how the token economy, I think, powers and incentivizes these users, but then also rewards them for providing accurate data makes a ton of sense. So let's I think change topics and move over to the Reg A+.
Mm-hmm.
That, from what I understand, is quite a process. We've been going through the Reg CF, and even that alone has been quite a journey. So can you walk me through your experience doing a Reg A+, how your users and eventual investors perceived that process, and what you learned throughout that issuance?
Yeah, we learned a lot, and I think a lot of subsequent Reg A's learned a lot from us. I think when we started in 2018, the jobs act was like 5 years old or something, but most of the companies who did Reg A's and were real estate type companies, and there were very, very few tech companies who did Reg A's, and if they did them, they raised in a very traditional manner with call centers and those kinds and lists, right? Lead lists, and they called people, and it was just a very old-fashioned, like Wall Street type process in the Reg A. And so we are good at marketing, I think, and so we changed that process and did run a lot of online ads and had lots of content like videos and websites and blogs and all these kinds of things to educate people about our company, and that created much more scalability than you have in a call center, right? It's the only way to get 23,000 shareholders. Otherwise, you have a huge call center to manage that. Right. Nightscope, they did something similar at that time as well. So it was basically us two, I think, who were visible at that time. There might have been others, but we weren't aware of them. And today, I think this is the only way to raise during the Reg A. It's you have good third parties now, like brokerages and so on, which help you out, and also agencies and all these things that didn't exist in 2018. So we did most of that in-house. Today, I think you can do a lot of that through third parties as well, and you have to decide, which part is right for you. For some company, it might be better to do everything in-house, right? If you have certain marketing expertise and so on, and then if you don't have a certain expertise, maybe that part you want to do outside. But it's lots of patience. With the SEC, they do an important job, right? That protecting investors, and they need to understand what business you have, or they want to understand what business you have. So it can take some time with the communication with them. And then I think it's very important that a lot of the Reg A's I'm speaking with, they're not thinking about the ongoing reporting requirements, and they burdensome. The annual and semi-annual filings. You need audited financials, which are great, but everything else, it's burdensome and costly, especially if you're a company in the crypto space. And you need to have cutting edge crypto accounting, but you don't get a lot of guidance.
That makes sense. So really what you're saying is something that I feel like we agree with, and we've told many people throughout the journey. And I just want to reiterate to get your feedback. is most of your investors probably were not buying this token because it was a token, right? That you have to raise the money behind the business, and then the token adds additional advantages and benefits. Is that the case for you as well?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And how did you go about describing some of the benefits of doing a security token as opposed to a traditional offering? If you have somebody, did you have any investors potentially that were wondering, well, why aren't you just doing this the normal way? And potentially this is maybe slightly outside of your scope as on the operations team, but I'm interested to hear your perspective around if there was pushback around that. Where do you see the benefits of a security token versus a traditional investment vehicle?
Yeah, security. So to clarify, when we sold the shares, they weren't tokenized yet. We tokenized them subsequently, and so they were just regular Reg A shares, right, with the transfer agent and so on.
So now, then, perhaps why do you see the benefits of tokenization for those Reg A shares? What did you learn by doing it the traditional way that has convinced you and your team that tokenizing is the correct method? Is it because of the secondary market liquidity opportunities? Is that kind of maybe the main driver, or was there anything else?
That is the main driver, and it is there is limited liquidity in the secondary markets right now, right? Because there are just very few issuers. We have as a market leader T0 ATS, and they have 5 or 6 assets listed right now, right? Mm-hmm. And we are the largest one by far in number of shareholders. And this market is going to grow tremendously, right? They're going to connect their market to other brokers and so on in the future, right? ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, which owns NYSE, just invested in them, right? The chief strategy officer from ICE just became the CEO of T0. And there's a lot of stuff happening which will increase volume and liquidity. But for today, for our 23,000 shareholders, it's very meaningful liquidity because we have a lot of shareholders which own 30 shares, 40 shares, 50 shares, right? And for them, it doesn't matter if there is, I don't know, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million trading volume a day, right? It can still provide meaningful liquidity. And so that was a primary driver for us to do this. But also, we believe the whole security token ecosystem and the secondary markets with the ATSs provide a meaningful, extremely compliant avenue to create something in the block, connects the blockchain and crypto ecosystem basically with the security type ecosystem. And we feel that it's Bitcoin in 2009, where we are at the beginning of something huge coming, and we are excited to be there at the beginning and be one of the trailblazers.
Right. No, and I think it also, just from the angle of, if you believe that a lot of the economy and these different assets are all going to be tokenized, it only makes sense that the securities will as well, right? If you have this tokenized XYO piece, you're using blockchain-based assets, it makes sense that stable coins are going to need to be leveraged throughout the system. And of course, it only makes sense that the actual investments themselves are also tokenized. It really just kind of completes the puzzle, that there's no reason, and it makes total sense that all of these things can interact within the same economic system, which I think is pretty compelling as well from a use case perspective. But what have you learned throughout that process in terms of working with T0? You had to go through a journey in terms of moving through this process. Now that you're done with that, what do you see the potential of digital assets being representing with regards to real securities, real assets? Do you see this being something that's going to transform the investment landscape?
Yeah, it's going to be momentous. In my dream world, we won't need IPOs and S1s anymore, and everything is going to be tokenized one way or the other, and then can trade your bicycle or your vacation rental or your bakery or whatever you want, right? And then the market decides if it has value or it doesn't. Sure. And I believe there's going to be so much liquidity in this market. That's why that ICE invests there, and the ICE chief strategy officer is now the CEO of T0 is quite telling, I think. And
right.
It's going to change everything.
I think that it makes total sense, just because, you mentioned the IPO market, and, traditionally that was a great way to allow to get fair market value. You look at Amazon when they went public, I believe it was at like a $500 million valuation, 550 million, something along those lines, because the whole point was that you were supposed to, at that point, then reach retail and then have that expand over time. And I think that we've seen private markets just become way too inefficient, with the sense that these businesses are raising such large capital rounds at private valuations, where investors aren't really able to get a litmus test around what the fair market value of this asset is and what it's going to be, seem like on a real competitive trading marketplace. And that's why a lot of these IPOs seem to fail, right? Because they're already so over bloated that no one wants to buy these assets anymore. And the investors that bought in along the way, either A, wrote up their books if they were early enough, or B, had their head in the sand, just pretending that they can just it's going to keep going up forever based off of crazy revenue multiples and crazy expectations for companies that maybe weren't deserving of those valuations. Not that they're bad companies, right? It's not that Casper Mattresses is a bad company. It's just that it probably isn't worth whatever billions of dollars that it was valued at pre-IPO. So I think that security token, to your point, offers a great opportunity to reach that secondary market, to reach that public phase without the extreme barriers to entry that have been imposed by the NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange, and not to mention haven't really been sorted or solved by the OTC markets, which I know a lot of people have had their difficulties with regards to liquidity as well. So it definitely presents an exciting opportunity to work with companies like T0 and others. Or the question for me is, how do you see that listing process working moving forward? Is it going to be kind of a Wall Street 2.0 where there's one or two players, just like the NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, or do you see it happening more kind of like crypto, where you can buy Bitcoin on 1,000 different exchanges in the future, way long term? How do you see it playing out? Is it more likely to be like Wall Street, or is it more likely to be like the crypto industry?
I want it to be more like the crypto industry, but I fear it's going to be a bit more on the Wall Street side. And that is because there's regulation ATS, right? And it works in a regulated environment, right? More regulated than the crypto market. Maybe the crypto market becomes more Wall Streety over time. Who knows?
Sure.
But I think the key here is that all the ATSs which coming online, which are already online, it's important for them to share their liquidity, right? That you are able to like right now, if you log into your Schwab or E-Trade or whatever broker you use, you can trade a share wherever it's listed. And right, if it's listed on the NYSE or NASDAQ or wherever, right, you can buy that share. Right now, you have to open an account, but at T0, for example, to trade extra large shares, and that's burdensome for some people. And so it's important that those markets are connecting. And I think when those markets connect, then it doesn't matter if there's one player or 100 players out there, right? Then it provides access to everyone, and then it becomes more like the crypto market.
Right. I think that maybe another barrier is the transfer agent piece, right? Because you have this third party that kind of has to oversee everything. So they need to sign off on every additional platform to list, as opposed to in the crypto industry where there isn't that middleman. I understand you guys had quite a journey through moving with transfer agents, and now you're working with Vertalo. How has that process been, moving transfer agents, and how has it been working with the Vertalo team in Austin?
Yeah, we worked with Carter first, and that was 2018, 2019. They were so overwhelmed by the volume they received, call volume and so on, that we decided together, but they more decided that we didn't want to work together anymore. And then we moved to Broadridge, and Broadridge is a good transfer agent, maybe if you're in McDonald's or Disney or someone like that. And but it's maybe not the best transfer agent when you are Reg A issuer and you need fast things and innovative things, and so on. And so we decided to move to Vetalo, and that team there is just amazing. They are technology forward, right? They don't send one letter; it's everything over email, and they can just build things, right? They just decide, okay, we want to connect to the T0 ATS, and we want to show, your shares here and there, and enable trading and do all the things, and they're just building it. And they're like an API first platform, so it allows them to connect into different ecosystems, not just ATSs, but they have connections in the whole financial services ecosystem. And so it's easy for them, to plug into a new platform. And it was one of the first times, right, that they plugged into an ATS, so things took longer, right, because that's what they had to do. But the next ATS and then the next one and the next one, right? They have now a lot of that infrastructure and are able to just connect to the next. And that team is really, really incredible in its ability to innovate and be cutting edge there.
That's fascinating. We certainly aren't surprised to hear that. They've been in the industry for a long time, and we've got a great relationship with their team. So excited to see that. But on the team topic, how about you talk about your team and some of the greatness there, and how much work that everyone's put in developing this? How are they adding value to this project? How are they driving the industry forward? Let's talk about the XY Labs team.
Yeah. We're a team of 51 people. We are distributed around the globe, about 20 in the US and 20 in the Philippines and 10 somewhere else. And
where are you based in the US?
I'm in San Diego.
You're in San Diego. Awesome.
It's my San Diegan accent. No. I'm German originally, but I'm in San Diego now. And
is your HQ in San Diego as well, or are you remote?
Yeah, our registered address is here because you need one, but technically we don't have an HQ anymore. We gave up our office in March 2020. That was a good time, I think.
Yeah, no kidding.
And now we're fully remote.
Nice.
We have a small warehouse in southern San Diego for some of our hardware stuff, but otherwise we're fully remote.
Cool.
And it's better. Our productivity went up. And our recruiting is much better. San Diego engineers are much more expensive than an engineer in a more rural part or less expensive part of the United States or even the globe, right? And so if you build a business which can work fully remotely, I fully suggest to do it. But our team, that whole process took about a year. To get listed on the T0 ATS, and took longer than expected for both T0 and for us, and I think for Vetalo as well once they jumped in. So in the beginning we were with Broadridge, and then that whole process took time, right, to then decide to switch, to first figure out if we want to keep working with Broadridge or not, and then to switch to Vetalo, and then from Vetalo
with your 20,000 investors to move all those people over.
Exactly, build all the connectivity, and then at the same time we build up our investor relations team, and then there's a huge legal component, and it just took time, and then our starting our deadlines always get pushed out. We got finally listed on September 14th, so just shy of a month ago, and our team was amazing in being able to put it together as well. We have a lots of ways to communicate with both the Betalo and the T0 teams, and there was not a day really where there wasn't communication between our teams.
Right. That's amazing. That's pretty incredible that you were able to accomplish that. And now you're successfully trading and listed. So it's on to the next goals and objectives. Where do you see the future of the company and of the offering and the listing and all of that kind of stuff? How do you see that going moving forward?
Yeah, we are very growth focused now. We want to provide our shareholders shareholder value, and so we are very focused on growing the network and build new technology which enables us to do that, and that's our main focus right now.
Great, fantastic. And for people that want to follow along, learn more, where's the best way to get updates on the company and to connect with you?
I'm part of the company, so I don't even have personal social accounts. So it's best to connect either with XYO on like Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and friends. And there's also an XY Labs Twitter account. But there are more updates on the XYO account for like both XYO and XY Labs.
Cool. Amazing. So check them out on Twitter, XYO. And Markus, thank you so much. Is there anything else that we can plug or talk about before we call it a wrap here?
That was super comprehensive. Thank you, Kyle. That was a really great interview.
Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll talk soon. And I know that our companies will be certainly working together on a lot of things moving forward. Definitely check out XY Labs. If you want to learn more, you can certainly find out a lot on their socials. You can go online, you can look up a lot of research, or you can buy their new token on T0. It is a security. So this is not financial advice. Nothing on here is any of that. But this has been a great interview, Markus. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.